Hi, welcome to One Valuable Note. On today's episode, we will be talking about obedience and how important it is to obey God. Please join us. Hello, everybody, and welcome to One Valuable Note. I am Mar Haish, and I will be hosting this valuable podcast. Yeah. So, I am a follower of the great Messiah, Yeshua, and I am a believer. And in this podcast, I want to share the most valuable word and inspiration and revelations and motivations and everything shuns. Okay. Um, with you all. I am not a professional preacher. I'm not a professional teacher. All I can share is what I have, what I've learned, what I've read, what I've studied. And I was really motivated by a lot of inspirational speakers on TikTok who have their own way of studying and showing and revealing everything that God shows to them. And I've lived a lifetime of God showing me certain things. And I said, why not? So let's start with the show. I promise you that for the first 5, 6 minutes of this show, I have had to repeat it over and over and over and over. And I'm sitting there like, you know what, just forget it. Maybe today's not the day. Maybe this is not what God wants me to talk about. And then I realized, okay, this morning after my husband left for work, I stayed awake. The blessings, which are all my animals, decided that they wanted to keep me awake. They were hungry, they wanted to go out and all that. So I had no other choice but to stay awake. And I have a few farm animals, so I have to, be on top of that. So with that, I sat down and I read my daily inspiration, and then I ran into this verse in there, which wowed me, which kept also made me like, ooh, okay. James 4:17 says, "It is a sin to not do what God tells you to do." And everybody knows we grew up with the story of Jonah and the whale. And I kept that story as a young girl. I kept the story. I said, okay, if you're disobedient, you're going to get eaten by the whale. So with time, as time grew older, I understood that if you're disobedient to God, it's not going to go your way ever, ever. So I understood that. And I've been kind of sticking to that. The older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing that I should not part my ways with God, that I should really make my amends with God, because that can go wrong in my old age. So I sat there and I reflected on that. And then right now, like, this is like my seventh take. And I realized, why do I keep doing this? Like, I keep getting upset. And I was like, why do I keep restarting. Maybe I shouldn't do it, but today's not the day. But then God reminded me, if you're not obedient to what I tell you to do, then it's all gonna go wrong. And I'm like, okay, so am I being disobedient right now that the show's not going good? And he said, no. It's just that you want the show to go your way, but that's not how it's supposed to go. Okay? When I tell you to do something, I already have the plan set up. You just got to trust me and obey. That hit me again right now. I was like, wow, okay, okay. And God's right. How many times do we constantly come out of that plan that God gave us because we want to do things a certain way, or because we want to do things our way or the easiest way. You know, that's another thing. I am a very organized person, as you can tell from my workshop back here. Sometimes this is my workshop, guys. So sometimes it's really bad. Um, but I'm a very organized person and I like to work in organization on a schedule with a plan. I never like to come to the ballpark without a plan. Okay, that's just not me. My husband, on the other hand, he is more of a free thinker. He's more of a free spirit, more of a when I get to it, I'll figure it out. And it hasn't gone quite right for him when he thinks like that. Honestly, he really, really, really doesn't. But I tell my husband, look, I understand the easiest way is the easiest way and fastest. But the problem with the easy way is that you're going to miss a lot of detail. And you're going to have to work harder because if it messes up or it breaks, you're going to have to come back and do it the right way. So it's better to do it the right way at first. And in my husband, he gets upset because I nag about that all the time, but he does it all the time. So it's like, I have a certain mindset, and I'm sure that that's how God is. God doesn't change. He doesn't change his mind. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he doesn't change rules. You know what I mean? That's how the rules go. So thank God for his mercy and his grace. That fire doesn't fall down from the sky or we get electrocuted from lightning bolt. But that's how God works. And his word doesn't change. His word is forever. Okay, it's the same yesterday, today, and always. And one thing that got to me about this verse is that many of us have been called and given gifts from above. Many of us have been given orders to do certain things. And because they become hard or because they don't give you the result that you thought you would get, you get a little discouraged and then you walk away from things. But God is so merciful that anytime you just want to pick right back up, you can, because that is how God works. Does. Sorry, guys, I have to bring my coffee because I don't know about you guys, but lately it's been just these allergies out here are ridiculous. Like I lose my voice, see, and I'm constantly all boogered up and everything. Is like I'm sneezing all the time. Like I- people are like, you're just getting older and the allergies get worse. I'm like, no, no, I'm not getting old. Okay. But um but yeah, if God's given you a project or God's told you to do something or to inspire somebody or whatever it is that God has done for you, look, we're going to run into certain walls that have no way out. But that's where God's giving you the strength to punch or kick that wall down and say there is a way out. And as time has, as I have aged, time has gone by and I have aged, I've matured more in the spiritual realm. And there's just certain things that I refuse to live without. Am I perfect? I'm not a perfect soul. Okay. Do I have it all together? I really don't. I'm an organized person, but I really don't have it all together. And even when I am a person of leadership and wanting to be in control, half the time I'm not. So, I have to humble myself and remember that God is the one that is in control. And, it's not worth to be disobedient, and because the like it says there, the way it says there in James 4:17, it is a sin. It is a sin. Now that changed a lot. That revolutionized my mind this morning because I'm like, okay, I already knew it was wrong if you don't obey God. But now you turn it around, James, and said it is a sin. That changed things. That's just like take a shoe and hit me inside my head. I deserve the chancla. The chancla means in Hispanics, in Hispanics families, um, we have this thing that when we were growing up, our grandmothers or our moms would throw a sandal at you every time because that's what they wore, sandals, and but they would throw a sandal at you every time that we did something wrong. And there's like memes and stuff out there. You should look that up. CHANCLA, chancla. And I feel like God threw a chancla at me, y'all. I did. I was like, okay, before I felt bad when I didn't obey God, but now it's like you're telling me it's a sin. Now you're like making me feel really bad. You know what I mean? Now you're telling me that could really burn for real in hell. But guys, look, maybe to some of y'all, this is a little too much. Maybe for some of you guys, this may be a little too legalistic. I get it. Okay, we all want to serve God the way we think he should be served. And everybody has a way to serve God. Fine. Okay. But well, you have to understand that his word, okay, means something. His word is the word. There is no other word. His word is the word. His word is truth. In other words, we can't debate it. It's already established. It's already there. You can't do anything about it. Honestly, you really can't. So, you know, you could be disobedient to God and go into the belly of a whale. If you guys have ever seen a whale in real life, which I haven't, but I've seen videos, yeah, it's kind of scary, and definitely I would not want to be trapped in there. First of all, I'm allergic to shrimp, so I can't be anywhere near shrimps. So, you know, as I was a little girl, I wanted to be obedient to God. I was a disobedient child, though. I was a disobedient child. I was a child that gave a lot of trouble to my parents. I was a rebellious child. But no one understood that within my heart, I had this little fire for God. And I wanted to be obedient because I wanted to be a youth pastor. I want to be a kids ministry, work in the kids ministry. I wanted to be a pastor. I wanted to grow up to be a godly trumpet. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to talk to the people about God. I wanted to preach the word. I wanted to make sense. You know, I had such a different mentality concerning what the pastors at that time in the 80s and what they thought. My mindset was already made for the 2024. And I wasn't loved for that. A lot of pastors, and I'm sorry pastors if you're watching this, but a lot of pastors put me in on the back bench of the church, and that's where I had to stay. I loved singing and I wanted to sing because that was my way of being obedient to God, that he had given me a beautiful voice to sing. But people saw my status, okay, and refused that for me. And even so, okay, I forgive all you guys. I have to say that I'm sorry because I've struggled with this all my life and it literally traumatized me. The disciplinary actions that my old pastors would take against me, I don't even think it was so much their fault. I think it's what they were taught. But a lot of the legalistic mindset that was there before really scarred me. Um, I felt like I was never good enough to participate. And every time I was involved with something, I felt like I couldn't be in it long enough. And but I've turned out okay, guys, because they instructed me in the ways of God, and here I am as an old age. But you might say you're not old. Yes, I am. I'm old. Okay, I have white hairs. You guys can't see them, but they're all there. And but I always had that tendency of wanting to be obedient to God. And now that I have matured, I want to live the rest of my life obeying and doing the things that God wants me to do. And this program started off by another mother program that I had with a friend. And even though that program is still active and it goes whenever we have time, um, I wanted to venture off, and I prayed about it, and I really, really sought God for this. And I spoke to my friend and I let her know that, it was just something that I felt in my spirit that I needed to do. It was something that God placed in my heart, and I wanted her to understand, um and that I wasn't doing it out of me trying to get glory of anything, because that's not the point. The point of this program is because I want to bring value, into your life. I want you to see what you're worth through the eyes of God. I want you to understand the value that God has placed in your mindset, in your emotions, in your soul, in your body, in everything, in everything. When God created you, God created value. Okay, you are worth something. If you were not worth something, why is Satan so strongly trying to kill you and defeat you? You know, why does Satan so strongly fight so that you can walk outside of God's destiny? There's a battle in the heavens for you, for your soul. And that's why I decided to go ahead and take the step of faith and obey God. Again, when God gives you something and he says, "Hey, your name, I'm asking you to do this. This is what I want you to do." And there's a reason why. And we should be obedient. We should be obedient. Because when we fail to obey and do what God has told us to do, you're actually stopping so many blessings from there. You're stopping the blessing that's going to many people that God had already chosen for you to be that blessing or that door to walk through. And that's kind of complicated, because when we stand before judgment, before God, he's going to say, "What did you do with your gift? What did you do with what I told you to do? Did you do it?" No. Why? Well, for whatever reason. God's gonna say, "You know what? Because you didn't do it, you failed to help this, and a whole list from there." It's like a ricocheting thing. It's like a domino effect. I don't want to go through that, y'all. I want to be obedient and say, "Yes, God." I had maybe 3 followers, but I did what you wanted me to do. That's what I want to do. And then the Lord say, "It's okay, 3 followers were fine." Because when I called you, I didn't say I was going to give you over 3,000 followers, 10K. You were going to start off with a few followers, and those followers were going to record those certain words and those certain inspirations, and they're going to pass it down to their generations, and it was going to cover a generational family. We have to stop seeing things as how little they are. And we have to see how much that little seed is going to grow. The Bible says if we have faith like the grain of a mustard seed, which is real tiny, you can move a mountain. Now that means something. Oh, that's talking about faith. No, no, no. Forget, let's put the faith aside. That means something though. If you take the smallest seed and you plant it, it's going to grow. It's going to grow. And it's going to grow for generations as long as you take care of it, you water it, it's going to grow. Stop dismissing the small little seed that we think, oh, it's nothing. If it wasn't nothing, God would have never put that idea in your head. What you say about that? Hmm? I've had enough of disobeying God. I did 42 years of it. Well, 41 years of it. And I'm not perfect. I still have my moments where I take myself back from certain things. But God says, no, there's certain people in your life, there's certain things in your life that you have to keep going because I put them there. I'm like, okay. One of the greatest things, and I'm going to tell you, you want to know how you get back to that? Apart from prayer and reading the word. Celebrate the day of rest, which is actually a commandment. Guys, that's a whole different other lesson that I'm going to show. My husband and I have been celebrating Shabbat. No, we are not Jewish. But we celebrate a day of rest, a day where we turn everything off, put our phones down. We have a beautiful family dinner. We light up candles. We have our wine. We go for walks. We interact with each other as husband and wife. We pay more attention to our animals. We rest. We watch godly, inspirational preachings and movies. We do a day of rest. When Jesus died on a cross for us, he changed many things. So we do it our way. Always respecting that that day is also for the Lord. And I promise you that 3 weeks of Shabbat completely changes your mindset. You come back and you start thinking of yourself. You start realizing where you're at with God. You start understanding why God brings things into your life, why God wants you to remove certain things into your life. With me, God has taught me that there's certain people that don't belong in my life anymore. And it's very hard because I am such a forgiving person. I really am. I've been done the worst and I've had to forgive. I choose to forgive. Maybe my heart doesn't feel it, but I choose to forgive. And I have been able to speak to God and talk about, and he's been able to show me the things that I have to work on. Apart from that, I study the word and I have so much material that it's like, God, like I gotta share this. Like this is such a revelation. And I've done videos before in the old podcast where I've been like Guys, this might have been a revelation to you, but it hasn't been a revelation to me until today. The best thing for us as human beings is to bring that back into our homes. It is a commandment. I grew up in a Christian home, and as much as I heard preachings, as I heard inspiration, as I heard, as I saw a pastor point of fingers at me, I never heard them ever exercise Shabbat. And I don't know why. I mean, it was instructed to me to celebrate on a Sunday, but if you study it and go back really into it, it's a Saturday, you know? And I've always been one to be either you're in or you're out, but you can't be halfway. And when I've been halfway, believe me, I've been swallowed by the whale. So that's a whole other story. Shabbat is a whole other episode. But guys, look, we could waste an entire life of disobeying God, and you know what? When we disobey God, everything goes wrong. How many of you have done things that God said don't do that, but you still did it anyways, and then now you're like in a whole hot mess? And now you're finding yourself praying to God and saying, God, why this? Or God, why my wife that? And why my kids that? And why my husband this? And God's looking at you like, hey, I didn't tell you to go do that. I didn't tell you to go marry her or go marry him. I didn't tell you to go get that job or go get that job. I didn't tell you to go date this person and date that person. And then now you want to come to me, ask me to help you? You should have obeyed me the first time. You know what, guys? I'm not giving you an advice, okay, that I haven't been through. I've been through that myself. And I've gotten on my knees and say, God, why this and why that and this and that? And God says it just like it is. Well, I never told you to do that. You're lucky that my grace is sufficient. We are lucky that God's grace is sufficient. I'm lucky that God's grace is sufficient. So today's lesson, let's start doing that one little thing that we've been disobedient to God about. Let's get it right. Let's get it right. It's never too late. Never too late. It doesn't hurt to pray. It doesn't hurt to take it to God. It doesn't hurt for you to go to your friend or to your partner or to your children and say, "Hey, listen, I'm sorry that I did that and I wasn't being considerate. And you know what? I'm sorry, sorry, da 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 da, whatever. But I was just being disobedient to God, and I want to be obedient to God by doing this, and that." We have to stop being prideful. We have to stop allowing our egos to take and make these decisions. We have to forward, push forward, push forward. God bless you guys. Have a great, great, great day.